coverage.
What are we doing here today? Well, we've been talking a lot about the NFL draft. Over the past 5 or 6 episodes, we've gone on a deep primer on the quarterbacks. We've drafted the top 12 running backs. We've drafted the top 12 pass catchers. We've gone in depth. We have over 3 hours of draft coverage for you on our feed. If you haven't had a chance yet, go ahead, give it a listen. The draft is in 3 weeks. If you want to go in depth, I highly recommend it. But for a lot of people that have really healthy relationships with people in their lives and, aren't just consumed with football content, this week and next week might be the first time that they really exposed to what this draft is, who's in this draft, who's the number one overall pick, what's the deal. And I was talking to Ronick and Brand. If you followed RTM in season, they were our gambling guys. And I said, hey guys, we want to bring you on and we want to do like a prop bet over-unders episode for the draft. And they were like, hell yeah. Who's even in the draft was basically their response. I'm going to have to do all this cramming the night before. And I was like, you know what? We've just been assuming that everyone's got 3 hours to go a deep dive position by position, player by player. When in actuality, some people just want the spark notes. So today's episode is the 2023 draft for dummies. That's where we're at. We're going to go through the main themes, the main characters. We might even get a little crazy in mock draft at the end, kind of go pick by pick, at least for the first 16 picks. I am by no means going to act like I'm an offensive line, cornerback, defensive line expert by any means. We've watched a lot of film on the offensive guys on the side of the ball. If you want to learn more about their fantasy value, their prospects, and the pros, again, go to our feed. We have so much content for you there. But before we dive in today, if you haven't yet, give us a follow at RTM Fantasy, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. If you haven't yet, go ahead and subscribe on our YouTube channel. We're posting content there pretty much every day at Regression to the Mean. It's Regression to the Mean.
Yep.
Give us a follow there. And Keegan, do we have anything else? We have a whole laundry list of things that people need to do.
TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. I think you got it covered there, Shaun.
Also, go ahead, subscribe if you're listening for the first time. Please do. We'd appreciate it. All right, let's dive in, gentlemen. We're looking at the 2023 NFL Draft for Dummies. We need to look at the main characters of the 2023 draft. Where would you start?
Yeah, so I'd say it's pretty common draft after draft. It starts with this position, and it really boils down to the quarterbacks. Is this a 2024 draft class with some of the studs like Caleb Williams and Drake May? Probably not, but there's still some quarterbacks at the top of this draft causing a lot of noise, causing what was already a trade at 1-1, and what we're going to see with some more trades coming down. So I'd say you got 1A and 1B in Bryce Young out of Alabama and CJ Stroud out of Ohio State. And then you've got Anthony Richardson out of Florida, just absolute freak athlete who knows, could end up 1-1 come draft day 1. And Will Levis out of Kentucky, who, again, kind of fits that prototypical NFL size. Honestly, not the best career at Kentucky. Like, you look at the stats and you're like, there's no way this guy's going first round. But you'd probably say those 4 guys are going to dictate a lot of the moves that are made early on in day 1 in the NFL draft.
We have the top 4 quarterbacks. Real quick, CJ Stroud's full name is Coleridge Bernard CJ Stroud the 4th. Just an FYI. Adjust your rankings accordingly.
What a name.
For Coleridge Stroud.
Adjust your rankings accordingly.
Okay, so outside of Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, and there's really no consensus among that 4. I think the consensus is Levis is 4th for the most part. The other 3 are kind of in play, but who knows? Levis may actually be the 3rd quarterback taken off the board. Who knows for certain?
Mm-hmm.
Any other quarterbacks that we need to worry about in this draft, Keegan?
I think the only one who would potentially sneak into the first round is Hendon Hooker. I don't know if it's mock draft fatigue or just football analyst fatigue, but we've gotten to the point where I'm hearing Hendon Hooker in the first round. Teams are liking Hendon Hooker, and it is I saw a good comp for him online. Hendon Hooker is very similar to Geno Smith in college. Mm-hmm. Statistically great, plays in an offense that feeds into that. And if you go back and look at it, like, yeah, well, Hendon Hooker, jumps out as making these big throws, but it's in an offense that facilitates that kind of play from a quarterback. I think it's kind of, it's a bit, what's the word I'm looking for? It's bait for lack of a better word.
You think it's
it's
draft bait?
draft bait.
You think it's draft
for
bait?
sure.
People
Yeah.
driving up cliff.
But I think we're
not to mention he's also 25 years old and coming off a torn ACL, but scouts are leaking he could be in the first round. So
that's the other main character of the
call-
QBs here in this group. But
You guys,
he's kind of more of a supporting actor.
okay. You guys want to know a fun fact about Hendon Hooker? He's older than Justin Herbert.
I love these.
He
I love
is
these
older
stats.
than Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert, who's about to enter his 4th year in the NFL. Hendon Hooker was putting up crazy stats in a offense that basically is fake. I mean, they lined up all their receivers out of the outside hash. They put their speed demon wide receiver behind like 3 guys, and they were just like, Hooker, look at one side of the field, throw it deep. Like that was the offense. I don't really know what the upside is. I think Keegan has a decent point about Geno Smith. Keep an open mind about Hendon Hooker, but yeah, supporting actor. I'm good.
That's a nice
I'm
way to
good.
put it.
Yeah.
That's a nice way to put it.
He's like, what character would Hendon Hooker be in Succession?
Oh, he's Connor at best.
Connor? Oh wow, that's a little too much for Hendon Hooker.
Just kind of like keeps popping up. I just don't want him there. It's just like
he's kind of more of a Frank. He's kind of more of a Frank or a
yes.
Jerry.
Yes, he's a
Frank. He's like Frank
or a Carl. He's a Carl.
Yeah, Frank or Carl.
Okay, Hendon Hooker. The 4 kids are the Roy family. Who are the Roy kids? I think between who is Bryce, who is Will Levis, like where are we mapping these guys in terms of succession?
Well, Bryce and CJ Stroud are one. They're either Roman and Kendall. That's what those two are.
yeah, they got to be Kendall and Romy.
I would say Anthony Richardson is probably Shiv.
Okay.
Wild card.
Shiv. Yeah. Shiv
Biggest wild card, and Will Levis is Connor.
can be Connor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Will Levis kind of got some Roman vibes.
I like that.
Though.
Well, no, because he eats mayo,
He's so-
and I feel like Connor would
tall,
eat
though.
mayo.
He's
Will Levis.
tall, Mayo. Could run for president, too.
Will Levis does- yeah, exactly.
That tall. Okay.
Just weirdo vibes from both. Weirdo vibes from both.
Outside of the quarterbacks, Keegan, any other teams that are kind of the main characters here in this draft?
I think the first main character of this draft, and they're already writing their story pretty in depth here, is the Chicago Bears. At one point, they did hold the first pick, and I would call them a main character because they have dictated a lot of how this draft will shake out. And the second main character to that would obviously be the Carolina Panthers, who assumed the number 1 spot by trading with the Chicago Bears. So I think the draft is going to shake out a certain way because of those two, the trade that they made, and now the picks that they hold. Chicago has an opportunity to build out more picks. Carolina will determine probably what Houston does at their draft pick if they actually take somebody that maybe Houston likes, cough, Bryce Young. A bunch of things could happen with them too. And then outside of that, there is Colts are in play here. I also think the Cardinals could assume a main character position if they decide to trade out. If they keep it, not so much, but there is a lot of stuff that will happen in this draft. But I think some of those teams right there are kind of like the main playing factors here.
So let's break that down. So we have the Bears, who traded out of the number 1 overall pick to the Carolina Panthers. The Bears picked up the 9th overall pick in this draft, DJ Moore. Picked up more draft capital for the coming years. Okay, so the Carolina Panthers basically mortgaged their entire future for the top pick in the draft that has no consensus number 1 overall. Because that is a theme that we'll touch on a little bit. There's really no consensus best player in this draft. It really varies from person to person, from analyst to analyst. The Panthers were so tired of running through this whole like QB carousel, right? Their owner, David Tepper, acquires the team and basically has just been playing QB roulette. They decided to take a cornerback when Justin Fields was on the board. And then they gifted the Bears Justin Fields' future franchise wide receiver, and then decided to, fill their team out with DJ Chark and Adam Thielen. We can be a little critical on that. Aidan and I are not major fans of what the Panthers have been doing here, but they seem all in.
They have J.C. Horn. They have J.C. Horn,
DJ Chark, and Adam Thielen. Look,
ready to roll.
I think what the Panthers are doing is wild. They basically pulled the 49ers where they traded up probably for CJ Stroud. And now it looks like it's going to be Bryce Young, like they've changed their mind. I have heard or I have seen, I should say. It's not like I'm fucking plugged in. I'm not gonna act like I'm getting it. People are just fucking blowing up my phone.
My source.
I have heard that David Tepper is all in on Bryce Young, and I've also heard that David Tepper's wife really likes Bryce Young, and that is one of the major driving factors of why Bryce Young would be the first overall pick to the Carolina Panthers. But if that happens, Keegan, you already nailed on this. This creates this whole clusterfuck because word around town.
Like, what do the Texans do? I think Nick Cassero is his name?
Nick Caserio.
Like, loves Nick Caserio, right? Loves Bryce Young. I think like there's no secret
Loves
who the
Bryce
Texans
Young.
want. Of all the things I'm sure of in this draft, that's the only one. Is that the Houston Texans want Bryce Young to be in a Texans uniform to start the 2023 year. And if he's off the board, hell could break loose in this draft pretty quickly.
So something to keep in mind, because you're saying, okay, well, Bryce Young's good. CJ Stroud's awesome. So why wouldn't the Texans take CJ Stroud? Who is CJ Stroud's agent? Do you guys know?
No.
It's Deshaun Watson's agent.
Oh, that's fun.
That adds a nice little wrinkle to this. I could see why CJ Stroud is maybe not an option to work with the Houston Texans organization. Then
D'Amico Ryans just got a 6-year contract to be a head coach. Maybe they just roll with Davis Mills and take 2 defensive players with 2 and 12. I don't know. We'll play through it when we go pick by pick a little later. But this league,
I've got a pick by pick scenario that I'm gonna go through for the Texans. I've got a plan to rebuild them.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that we've talked about a couple times is like nothing's really getting out of their camp. I personally think it's smoke. I think they've been bad for too long to just kind of trot David Mills out there again. And I think if you put a couple more pieces, I think they win enough games to you probably win yourselves out of the Caleb Williams and Drake May sweepstakes. So if I had to guess, as much as the rumors are that they would pass, I think they have to go QB at 2. Like I don't know how long you can keep just dragging along, David Mills and this just, bottom tier NFL roster. Like at some point you've got to take a QB and take a swing.
Agreed.
And then we have the Cardinals at 3. So Keegan pointed this out. The Cardinals are going to be the worst team in football next year. I mean, it looks pretty bleak. I don't think Kyler's
depending on
gonna play.
Kyler's health. Exactly. Like, especially if he doesn't play. That is a miserable situation for the Cardinals.
Late season ACL with the contract he got. Maybe you just tank it, take Marvin Harrison with the first pick or something. I don't know. Like, I'm just spitballing here. But this is an obvious trade out, right? The Cardinals are trading out.
I would think so. Yeah, I saw something earlier this week. They've been in conversations with that, at least in regards to moving out of the number 3 pick. So I think it's going to be, different to Chicago's conversations that they were having with a handful of teams. But I think it's going to come down to like, if they want to get out of that pick, which I think most people would agree they probably should. Not only are they going to have their suitors, but they'll likely get a pretty good return for it, as they're kind of feels like a bidding war as of right now. We'll see. Yeah, I'd be shocked if the Arizona Cardinals make the 3rd pick in the NFL draft.
The Arizona Cardinals are going to trade out. We don't really know who yet. I feel like a mystery team is kind of a main character, like mystery in general. When you look at the 4th pick, it doesn't really feel like a mystery. It kind of feels like they're going to take Will Levis if he's there.
No, this kind of feels like a given, unless he's somehow gone by 3. Let's say someone like the Titans move up to 3, and Anthony Richardson's the last QB there at 4. I don't know. They still might do it at 4. I don't know. It feels like the Colts, that front office is kind of on their last life, for lack of better words. So yeah, but Will Levis, if he's there, feels like kind of a given there.
I feel like Levis to the Colts, based off Ballard's history, based off the fact that Will Levis had a private workout in front of the whole Colts brass. I feel like there's some smoke there. Like that feels like
For
something
sure.
we can kind of put our footing on it if Levis is there. So outside of the Colts, we have 4 teams that have 2 picks in the first round. We have Lions, we've got Lions, Seahawks, Eagles, and
the Texans.
And the Texans. We have 4 teams with 2 picks in the first round. Kind of feels like they control a lot of this draft too. Like the Lions could have a slam dunk draft. The Texans have 2 picks in the top 12. Kind of feels like we have a Jets opportunity like last year where first 2 picks absolutely smash and you're off to the races. Who out of those 4 teams do you think has the best opportunity to just really hit a home run in this draft?
I think it's the Seahawks for me. I'll compare the Seahawks and the Lions. Like, Seahawks are a playoff team already, and Lions are a fringe playoff team with a lot of high hopes, and the rebuild's been going well. But come down to the quarterback question, it's Geno Smith to Jared Goff. I think Lions are in a bit more of an interesting position because Jared Goff, in my mind, is still a bridge to whatever their next solution is. I don't know if he will be around for the long-term rebuild, but he's been great for right now. Geno got his contract. The Seahawks like what they have in Geno. They like the season they had, and they have a lot of good pieces around Geno already. They've got good talent on offense. They've got weapons. I think they have an opportunity to get some high-end defensive players in this draft and just roll with it and go straight back to where they were last year, which is a playoff team. I think the Lions have to think long and hard about maybe a Levis or a Anthony Richardson falls to where they're at in the draft. And I think they would legitimately have to think hard about not using one of those picks on a quarterback to secure the future after Jared Goff. Whereas the Seahawks have an opportunity to just bolster up their roster with best man available, add some influx of talent, and roll with their current team. Where the Lions are going to have to think long and hard. If Anthony Richardson's sitting in that Lions first pick and still available, they would legitimately have to think about it. And now I don't think doing that like derails the success of their team, but compared to the Seahawks, you can get 2 impact players in the first round right away. And the Lions might only have the opportunity to take 1 if they decide that they need some insurance for post Jared Goff years.
I feel like Goff is more set in stone than Geno.
I think the fantasy community is Goff a lot more than I think the Lions. Like, I think the Lions front office has a lot of faith in Goff. Out of the 4 teams you mentioned, I would have personally picked the Lions. I think you put 2 day 1 impact starters on that defense. We've already seen the offense is like the second half of the season. The Lions were a well-oiled machine in terms of the offense. They were putting up 20, 30 plus weekly, but their defense was also giving it up. So, bit of an issue. Like, you put another guy on that defensive line, maybe toss a corner. You've got 6 and 18 there. I personally think 3 out of these 4 teams, I think the Texans are going from, second to worst to playoffs, but I think the Lions, Seahawks, and Eagles should all be playoff teams next year with this abundance of picks they have.
We can't forget how they have these picks. The Seahawks traded Russell Wilson for the 5th pick overall. Rams traded Matthew Stafford for the 6th pick overall. Hey, they won the Super Bowl, right? But kind of crazy when you look
take
at
those.
It. I think you lump 4 teams in that top 10 who probably need a QB, but probably aren't going to be taking a QB. Lions, Raiders, and Seahawks. And they probably all go like best player available or defensive player. So we'll break that down as we get later into it. I think when we're looking at the main themes, and if you're really trying to understand the ethos of this draft, right? This is the draft guide for dummies. If you want to sound really smart talking to your coworkers, you're going to really want to hammer in the main theme of this draft. And the main theme of this draft is it's great, but when you met somebody in college and you went on a good date, you're like, yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was awesome, but she had bad breath. I didn't, that was a bummer. These players are great, but I'm going to play a fun game. I want you guys to finish this sentence for me, okay? Aidan, we're birthday boys. You're going to finish my sentence, all right? You think Keegan? I'm going to pass it off to you second because no one cares about Jets.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. All right.
Damn.
Aidan, Bryce Young is amazing.
He's built like an accountant.
He really is. He's really tiny. For everyone that doesn't know, he's like 5'9", 190. Okay. Keegan, CJ Stroud is awesome, but
he had the best college wide receiver core of all time and certainly played on an easier mode than everybody else.
Okay, it sounds like that isn't that bad, but definitely something worth taking a look at. Okay, Aidan.
Yeah.
Anthony Richardson is the most athletic QB of all time, but
he couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat some games in college and absolutely struggled with accuracy.
Yeah, he had a career 53% completion percentage. Okay, Keegan. Will Levis has not great, Bob. Will Levis has all the traits.
He's maybe too jacked and a developmental QB who is going to be 24 years old when the season starts. And he's addicted to mayonnaise. Oh my God. And you see that he ate a rotten banana?
He did.
Did you see that?
Eat a rotten banana.
There's a lot of butts with this one. A lot of butts with this one.
For a while with that.
Okay.
Red flags. Red flags.
Red flags. Hendon Hooker's stats are incredible, but
He played in a fake offense and was dunking on 18-year-olds at the age of 25.
yeah, it was very Uncle Rico vibes. It was kind of like he'd stand out in front of the
Very.
liquor store and like buy booze for underage kids just to hang out with them, like that kind of vibes.
I'm 12.
Yeah.
Okay, Keegan, all the wide receivers are awesome, but
They are snack sized and shop at Baby Gap for their jerseys.
they definitely shop at Baby Gap. This is probably one of the smaller wide receiver classes we'll ever see. Aidan, Jalen Carter is special, but
He's got some character concerns and continues to run into issues with the law.
yeah, this one's a big but. A lot of red flags here for Jalen Carter.
Yeah, from consensus 1-1 to like, is he gonna even go in the top 10 anymore? There's some issues there. There's some issues.
For all of you that don't know, Jalen Carter was pretty involved in a reckless driving incident that left one of his teammates dead, and then also showed up to his pro day really out of shape and couldn't even finish the workout. I'm not going to go full Reuben Foster. I'm not going to make those accusations, but it is great. Not great for Jalen Carter.
Not good.
Well, going to be a top 5 pick probably, regardless, or top 8. Okay. Bijan Robinson is a borderline generational running back, but
People don't care because the NFL doesn't care about running backs anymore. It's just so unfortunate.
Like Andy's old. It's like Andy's old toys. It's like, dude, they're still awesome, but it's just like, no thanks. I'm good on the running backs. No, they're not fun anymore.
yeah, they just
JJ.
don't want him. That's tough. Pete Skowronski could be a future Hall of Famer, but
He's got T. You tuned in the other week. You heard us talk about this. The arms are an issue, but could be an absolutely generational talent if he slots inside.
these are all some of the top players in this draft, and it's just littered with butts, with red flags. And that's the NFL draft in a nutshell. If that's what you wanted to know, everyone has a flaw, some interesting players, but it doesn't really feel like there's a slam dunk in this draft. Maybe outside of what, Will Anderson? Does Will Anderson have?
Will Anderson might be the only slam dunk. And I think where you get him, Bijan could be a slam dunk too.
I
Even
think
though
so
we don't
too.
care about running backs, but he'll be like a 2-year, 3-year
Yeah, I
slam
think so
dunk
too.
Yeah.
until the team that drafts him inevitably drafts a day 3 running back and pushes Bijan out before his 5th-year option gets picked up.
Yeah. No, the new thing is to franchise
Oof.
tag. That's the new thing is you're going to get him for
that's a
5
new
years.
thing.
You franchise tag him now. That's what they're doing with Josh Jacobs and with Saquon. Outside of the top players in this draft having major red flags or just having that butt that you just can't unsee, a major theme in this draft, the wide receivers are not what we're used to. So most of these guys project as late first round wide receivers and day 2 guys. It's a lot of talented slot receivers that are tiny. So I think for fantasy, we'll have some studs. Slot receivers do well. But in terms of like what gets an NFL evaluator, head coach, scout out of bed, the guy that's going to like keep a defensive coordinator up at night, you're not getting that in this draft unless Quentin Johnston like learns how to like catch like a receiver instead of somebody who's like worried the ball's going to hurt him. ASN could probably be very good as well, but he profiles more as a slot. So the wide receiver class, there's no Jamar Chase, there's no AJ Brown, there's no Deebo Samuel, there's no Drake London, Garrett Wilson. Like there's none of those alphas like that we can plainly see in sight. Now there might be, but they're day 2 guys from what I can see. Anything on the wide receivers?
I just think this will be an interesting case study. Devonta Smith is a great example of this, but like athletes change over time, right? Like the shapes, the builds, they just change. The games evolve. Like athletes are much different. Like, maybe we'll look back on this class after they've had a couple of years and be like, oh, like the Josh Downs and the Zay Flowers of the group, we'll look back and be like, that size plays. And they don't even just have to be exclusively slot guys. I think it'll be an interesting testament to like the changing of what we expect of athletes. And, like even edge rushers are so much different nowadays, and like builds and things like that. Offensive linemen are different. It's just constantly evolving. So I'm going to give these guys a bit of a grace period just to see what they become.
I think that's a really good point.
They might be small, and maybe they're too small, but maybe that is just where the position is going. Because I think you'll still always have your like true, like your DK Metcalf builds, to say like those will always exist too. But like maybe there just be an influx of maybe the more small, slender type, like the Devonta Smiths of the world.
Yeah.
something I'll be monitoring on this class because I think it's a good benchmark for where we'll be in a couple years.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good point. You got to keep an open mind. Like, is this like signs to come? Is this like a generational pivot for wide receivers, or is this more of a blip, an outlier?
Outlier. You
Yeah,
never
more
know.
of an
Yeah.
outlier. That's an interesting question. I mean, I'm excited to see if that's the case. Another major theme: the running backs are fucking awesome, and no one really cares. These running backs
They are
so
pretty good in this class,
good.
aren't they?
They're so good.
It's deep. This is probably the best class we've seen since, what was it, 2017? It's been about half a decade since we've seen a running back class this loaded, whether it's Gibbs, Charbot, even later guys like Tajay Spears. Like, dude, it is deep. We're going to have a lot of guys impacting not only NFL teams, but fantasy rosters from day one. And like you said, no one cares. No one seems to care because the running back position is a dying.
Does this kind of change how we think about positional value, which has been the major argument? Like, don't take a running back in the first round because of positional value. Running backs are replaceable. Well, guess what? This draft is weak, and Daniel Jeremiah, who's often considered probably the best mock drafter in the business, has Bijan as his number 3 player in this class. And that's not an aberration. Like, a lot of people have Bijan Robinson top 5. A lot of people have Jahmyr Gibbs top 25. So 2 highly touted prospects at running back. Zach Charbonnet, UCLA, you mentioned, top 50 prospect on Daniel Jeremiah's board. So is the NFL just going to say, fuck it, this draft class isn't good? Maybe the swing is to actually take advantage of this really good running back class, pick up some absolute difference makers for our offense, and say, fuck positional value? Or are we still just going to play this game where everyone's acting like Bijan's going to be like the 20th pick in the draft, which I don't think is going to happen, by the way. Bijan is, I think, going to go in the top 15. But I'm just curious to know, like, do you think NFL teams see how deep this class is and think, I'm going to take advantage and find an edge because this class isn't that great and I can get a very good running back? Or do you think they live with the Roshan Johnsons, Kendre Millers, Tajay Spears, Devon A-Chains of the world, which are going to be there on probably day 3, early day 3, late day 2 as a 3rd round pick? Like, it just kind of seems really intriguing for fantasy purposes, right? For us, like, these running backs are going to be great, but how does the NFL respond to it? What do you think?
Yeah, I think we're going to see something in the middle. I think, like you said, like Gibbs, maybe even Charbot, like those guys should be day 1, day 2 guys. But like you said, like the position has become so replaceable. You know, like those day 2 and day 3 picks are consistently providing impact. Where I think, you know, if it really fits that need, it's the best player available on their boards. Maybe they splurge on an early running back. But do I think it changes kind of the outlook going forward? I don't think so. Like, it almost feels like Bijan is like carrying the load of the running back position to like hit a home run in the NFL. Like this elite prospect, it's kind of a dying position. It's like Bijan, everyone is counting on you to like kind of like restore like greatness in the running back position. It's like there's so much pressure on this guy to be, you know, walk on water once he gets to the NFL. I think the top guys will go accordingly and early, like you said. But, you know, once we get to that tier 2, tier 3 guys, I don't see people reaching too much on that. There's other deeper positions
so
too. So
Bijan is the prince who was promised. So Bijan is carrying the torch. He needs to take down the monster that is the analytics nerds who say running backs aren't good. Because Bijan can't crush.
He has to.
We are doomed. And by we, I mean just people who like running backs. It's over.
It's over.
There's no
It's over.
It's over. Okay, this tight end class fucking kicks ass. If you like tight ends and you like big dudes who run pretty fast, you're gonna get pretty pumped. We covered this on the last episode, but you have all different flavors of tight ends. You got inline, maybe Jason Witten, Michael Mayer. You have a guy who looks like 75% of Travis Kelce and Dalton Kincaid. You've got the Mountain from Game of Thrones, Darnell Washington, who's a baby left tackle who his combine was legendary. The 40 he ran, the 3-cone he ran, that one-handed catch. Dude could basically go in as a rookie and be like a pseudo left tackle and also catch some screen passes. You got Sam Laporta out of Iowa. You got Luke Musgrave out of Oregon State. I really need to talk to a therapist if I can name this many tight ends in this draft. But it is a loaded class, fellas. Do you think that teams looking at tight end and looking at this wide receiver class think, hey, you know what? Maybe I'd rather have a Dalton Kincaid or Michael Mayer than a tiny Zay Flowers or Josh Downs. Do you think that's a decision NFL GMs are going to make?
Oof, I don't know. I think it depends on, what that NFL team is and just like what their game plan is going forward. Like who's their quarterback? Like, do they have a young quarterback and they're trying to find that like well-established tight end connection that often benefits like the young quarterbacks that people can build chemistry with? Like, because Michael Mayer is somebody who could do it all. I feel like GMs would take a bet on him. He can block. He plays the position so well. He's versatile, like catching the ball. He's not a bad like run after the catch tight end for how slow he looks. Like
He's a rumbler.
he's somebody who could be taken by anybody, right? Yeah. But then there's, Kincaid is like the athlete type, the receiver that you think is an elite weapon. Like, do you like your receiver core and you want to beef up your tight end position? Maybe not as a blocker, all around tight end, but like an athlete. Like, there's so many factors that go into it. Like, it's so easy to look at a team and be like, they need a wide receiver, right? Or they need a second option. Even if like they need a third option, like you can look at that and be like, yeah, I can identify that. But sometimes NFL teams make it work with like two tight ends and maybe they each catch 27 balls a year and an average of 300 yards each, and that's it. And it works. Tight end is going to be the hardest position for me to look at. But, people want to take a swing on this.
Yeah, you got to be committed. If you draft a tight end in the first round, you got to be committed to develop them because it takes like 2 to 3 years. And then once you develop them, you have to play them. It's like how the Lions were like, we hate this guy, TJ Hawkinson. We don't want to throw him the ball. We drafted him top 10 overall, and we're just going to trade him. Like, we were just like, first of all, whoever the Lions take in this draft in the top 10 pick, they're going to trade him 3 years later. They just traded Jeff Okudah. They just traded TJ Hawkinson. The only guy they're not trading is
Buyer beware.
Dude, like, when you think about drafting a tight end in the first round, like, here's some of the names that have gone in the first round. All right. Kyle Pitts, 2021, pick 4. Great. Like, we still think there's a ton of potential there, but he's a freak, right? Noah Fant, Denver Broncos in 2019, pick 20. Okay. Like, you probably look back on that and you're like, I wish I had that pick back at 20. TJ Hawkinson goes at 2019 at pick 8, and like you got some draft capital out of it. Sure. And Hurst was the 25th pick in the 2018 draft by Baltimore. Oof. And that's the same year they drafted Mark Andrews, I believe. So
and Lamar.
Like, it's
remember
really,
they drafted and Lamar before Lamar.
Before Lamar.
Njoku was a first round pick at the very end at pick 29 in 2017. He's good.
He's kind of figured it out.
But
he's figured it out.
And him and the next one are a perfect example of this because 2017, Evan Ingram was also drafted at pick 23. And think about how long those careers have developed. And, Evan Ingram's not even a New York Giant anymore. Like, they don't even get the benefit of that.
No.
OJ Howard was also drafted in the first round of 2017. Like, Eric Ebron in 2014, pick 10. I mean, it's so hard, right? Like, of these, Tyler Eifert was a first round pick in 2013.
Oh, man.
It's really, really hard.
His leg.
He was a beast.
Loaded.
He was a beast.
His leg. Yeah.
Yeah, he had some injury issues.
But it's really, really hard with the tight end position. The point I'm trying to make.
It's hard. It's hard.
You have to be, like you said, Shaun, you got to commit. Like, Evan Ingram took 6 years to fucking blossom, and he's not even on the team that originally drafted him. Good for Cleveland for working things with David Njoku and like progressing and being patient, because I think he's becoming an upper echelon tight end. But you're not, unless you're a freak, it's hard to justify taking a guy like in that first round because it takes so long to reap the benefits.
Yeah, it's like when in Anchorman, when Brian Fantana is showing on Sex Panther, he's like 60% of the time it works.
100% of the time.
That's what drafted tight ends is like. It's like Brian Fantana showing Sex Panther. It's an absolute shit show because for every Noah Fant, you have a George Kittle who's like a 5th round pick. That's who Sam Laporta could be. We should probably talk about the corners and edge rushers because they are in this draft. The corners are great. I can't say I've watched a ton of tape, but from my understanding, Christian Gonzalez is quite good and Witherspoon is quite good. They also have a kid from Maryland, the Banks, right, who's supposed to be pretty good.
Joey Porter's kid.
Joey Porter Jr.
Joey Porter ending up in Pittsburgh would be
What's
pretty
the deal
awesome.
with the edge rushers outside of Anderson? I know we have another ancient dude. Isn't Tyree Wilson like 25?
Tyree Wilson's only 23,
20,
but he's like kind of late bloomer. and he is a rare athlete.
Beast.
I mean, he's a specimen. Like, can he play the position technically sound? Yeah, no, but he has like the raw tools out of an edge rusher that you could probably mold and coach up. He's kind of a mystery, but he has top 15 talent, and he will probably go in the top 10. And then of course, who's the other one? Oh, Miles Murphy is an interesting one.
Lucas Van Ness,
I don't even know. Yeah, Lucas Van Ness.
I don't know why people hate him, but Miles Murphy's got like just prototypical size, like 6'4", 240, super athletic dude. Like, I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. And then you got Lucas Van Ness too. It just feels like everyone's just like JJ Watt. Like, he's the next JJ Watt. He's super productive at the college level.
He's the Anthony Richardson though, right? Of like the defensive ends, where it's not like hasn't played a ton. He's shown flashes, but it's not been super consistent.
His combine numbers really helped his case out a lot. Like, he was probably like a fringe 1, maybe early 2 guy, and after his combine numbers was like, yeah, that's definitely probably somewhere in the 10 to 20 range. So definitely soaring up the draft board. But kind of consensus is probably like either edge or corner are probably your 2 deepest positions in this class, where you're going to get immediate starters, not even on day 1. Day 2, day 3 plug and play guys, which wasn't the norm 5-10 years ago with this type of position.
Did we bring up Nolan Smith yet? Did I miss that?
Another freak, another outlier
he's an athletic outlier because he's 6'2". He literally 6'2". Yeah. It's like,
but he runs a 4.4. A 4.4.
He's built he's built like DK Metcalf, but he plays defensive.
Literally.
Let's break it down in terms of like 15 picks, right? How this shakes out. So number 1, again, this has been CJ Stroud, but now Bryce Young's the favorite. Are we saying Bryce Young's going 1? I think he is.
I still think it's CJ.
Okay.
I don't know. Like, flip a coin. The odds have been all over the place in terms of the Vegas betting odds. It's flipping towards Bryce right now. We've still got another 2 weeks. It could slide back the other way.
Aidan, if it's you.
I like CJ Stroud personally. It's more so the size. Like, they're both uber productive in college, both in systems that I think will translate to the NFL. Bryce Young is probably more of a pro-ready NFL offense versus Ohio State, which you're kind of seeing with Justin Fields. Bit of growing pains in terms of reading NFL offenses and really going through progressions. But when you look at CJ Stroud's size, I think it fares well in terms of kind of longevity in the NFL and being able to hold up with the likes of Aaron Donalds and dude throwing you down. Where 5-0 Bryce Young, it's like that's every hit you are absolutely holding your breath that he gets up. So I'm personally CJ Stroud.
I got something crazy to say, boys.
Uh-oh.
I think at this point in the draft, maybe I'm going crazy because of all the mock drafts, but I'm taking Anthony Richardson number 1 overall.
Whoa.
No way. Taking Anthony Richardson number 1 overall. If I'm the Panthers, he has the most upside. He's not as big a project as people like to believe. He does a lot of things in the pocket with his eyes, moving safeties, pocket manipulation, avoiding sacks. We all know the athletic upside is there. He was playing in an absolute malpractice shit show of an offense with a terrible offensive coordinator with some of the worst skill position players of any of these quarterbacks. Anthony Richardson, I think he's going to be really good in the NFL. And Bryce Young, I love him, but like you said, if anyone falls on him, he's done. And CJ Stroud, I'm sorry, he's not asked to do anything that an NFL quarterback can do. Now, he can make NFL throws, no doubt about it. The guy can make pretty much any throw. But the guy played on easy mode with literally 0 pressure, and when he was pressured, he didn't look great outside of some Northwestern tape and what he did against Georgia, which is 1 game, right? And he was throwing to the best receivers he will ever throw to in his career. So I'm going Anthony Richardson, even though I know he won't.
Keegan's disgusted. Keegan's disgusted.
Overall, he's my number. He's moved up my board. He's number 1.
I don't know how we say anything other than CJ Stroud after Josh McCown was like, yeah, we're going to play pickup hoops when you're living in Charlotte.
Yeah, Josh McCown's the quarterback coach. I'm sorry. I think we've given a lot of credence to Josh McCown because he's boys with the underdog guys who are great. Like, they're amazing. But he's the fucking quarterback coach, all right? Like, I'm sorry.
The guy who will spend the most time with him. You don't think he has a say in this?
He has a say, but he's like Carolina on the board in Succession, all right? He's not he's involved. But come on. He's like, this is David Tepper.
He's preparing
Frank
to draft
Reich
a statement.
in the GM.
He's preparing to draft a statement.
Look,
I don't think anyone knows which is the best part.
No one knows who it is, and that's why the Panthers mortgaging their future for this pick in a draft with no clear consensus malpractice. In a nutshell. Insane. And then what happens at 1 waterfalls this whole thing. Okay, so you guys, we all disagreed on who should go 1, like who we think is going to go 1, right?
So let's go forward like CJ Stroud.
Number 1. Okay.
Me and Keegan both had Stroud, so we'll go 2-3. We're going majority rules has been picked 1-1. Moving into 2-2.
Bryce Young. Easy. Don't think we need to spend time
Bryce
on
Young
that.
without
and then 3 at the Cardinals. I actually think they only trade back 1 spot. They move back 1 so the Colts can have their pick and nothing crazy happens, but the Colts do it to assure themselves that they get the 3rd pick and they can take the quarterback of their choosing with whoever's left. Cardinals will probably take, a 3rd and a 4th rounder on top of the package.
So they take
the Colts get their pick, and the Colts will pick either Anthony Richardson, which I think that'll be it, and then the Cardinals will take Will Anderson still at 4.
No, Levis
back to pick 3. If they move up,
Levis
I think they're going Levis. I think they're going Levis.
I do think it'll be a quarterback. Who it will be, I'm not sure, but I think there might be a trade up for the Colts to secure, because there are other people who will be looking at the Cardinals to trade up. And if the Colts want a guy that they really, really like, they got to at least move up that 1 spot. It might seem silly to go up 1, but you got to do it.
Dude,
Ballard feels like 1 year away from being fired. So in my opinion, it comes down to Will Levis, probably out of all 4 quarterbacks, has the most NFL ready build and tool set. Whether that equates to anything,
who knows?
Offense. But I think
he played in an NFL. He played like a legitimate NFL offense, especially his junior year.
Anthony Richardson, highest ceiling for sure. Chris Ballard does not have that time. So I think you're going with the safer pick.
Here's what I think. I think Bryce Young goes 1 to the Panthers. I think number 2 overall is traded to the Titans, and it's CJ Stroud or something. I think someone trades up, number 2 overall. I don't know what the Cardinals then do. I don't know how that works out, but it's madness. We can't even get through this top 4 picks. So I guess for just clarity's sake, we'll go CJ Stroud 1, Bryce Young 2. The 3rd pick, they trade out. I don't know. But that seems more logical because we've never had 1, 2, 3, 4 before for quarterbacks. It's never happened.
No.
So
I think for simplicity, no trades. No trade.
Okay, so Anderson goes 3. Anderson goes 3.
There going to be at least 1 or 2 trades in the top 10. But I think for the sake of just saying this is how we think it's going to go with teams' positional needs, I think we cut out
Anderson goes 3rd overall. Levis goes 4th.
Anything goes
4th. The Seahawks take Jalen Carter, right?
I think so, but don't be surprised if they took Anthony Richardson here too.
I don't think they're taking a quarterback.
I would not rule it out.
So over it if Anthony Richardson was a Seahawk. I would be legitimately, but as a 49er fan, I would be so over it if he landed in Seattle. I would hate it.
The Seahawks have at least been kicking their tires on these guys, and Geno's contract is. There's not a lot of money in the back end of this. It's Geno's not the long-term future, and will the Seahawks ever be close to drafting at 5 again? In a perfect world, they're not. They're not planning on being bad again. They're not going to, they're a playoff. This is a playoff roster. They're ready to go. They're
probably thinking we're a star defensive tackle away from making our defense much better. So I just feel
no Tyree Wilson here. Yeah. You don't want to get busy on the edge with one of the elite edge guys on the board. You want to go with the character concerns, Jalen Carter.
Let's do Tyree because they take players that are older, a little unconventional. Okay, let's take Tyree Wilson at 5. I like that edge rusher. 6 is a cornerback, right? Got to be.
Yeah, that feels like either Gonzalez or Withers.
For our listeners, Jeff Okudah has been traded to the Atlanta Falcons for a 5th round pick, and so the Lions definitely, I think, go corner here.
Got to. I think Witherspoon's more of a kneecap biter, but I think I've been reading that Gonzalez plays better in their system, the defense that they run. So Christian Gonzalez is a Lion. The Raiders have the 7th pick. This is Anthony Richardson. If Anthony Richardson's here,
they're praying that a quarterback is there. I think Plan A is a quarterback has fallen to you. and you're taking
their
a
best player
quarterback at 7.
available, the Raiders. Like they could go.
Man,
right
dude, the
Offensive
Raiders
line, basically
have
the only thing they
so
don't need are
many
wide receivers and
positional
running
needs.
backs.
Like
Like, that's the
outside
only
of
thing the Raiders-
Devontae Jacobs, they need everything. You
Yeah,
know,
they-
I mean,
They outside of the running back and wide receiver, they could take a lineman, D lineman, corner, quarterback.
They could go corner too. Yeah, they let Rock Essen walk. Like, who's the corner on the other side? Like, their secondaries in shambles. Like, there's so many holes in this roster right now. I think quarterback has to be plan A. If not, I'd put my money on either corner or somewhere on the offensive line.
So I think Richardson, I can't see him falling out of the top 10. I find it hard to believe he falls out of top 7.
I don't think so.
So I think Richardson goes to the Raiders at 7. And then
that's
at
fun.
8,
I like that.
and then at 8, I
know who you're gonna say.
I would do anything for this to happen. I would literally cry tears of joy if the prince that was promised, Bijan Robinson, was placed in Arthur Smith's running game with that run scheme, with that run blocking offensive line, Bill Pitts and Drake London, and the Falcons said, you know how everyone likes to draft cornerbacks and defensive ends and offensive linemen? We don't do that. We treat this like it's just your drunk friend in an auction draft in fantasy football. That's how we treat this. And I would just love this. I would love it so much if we put Bijan in this run scheme. Let's make him a top 10 pick. He's going to be the first pick overall in fantasy drafts if he's a top 10 pick. Book it. All right.
That's weird
Let's
because
put him
you
on
haven't
the
even
Falcons.
talked about how he's going to beat out Tyler Algier.
Tyler Algier.
Yeah, what about camp competition?
Okay. That's tough. That's like Gardner Minshew versus Trevor Lawrence. Oh,
You're
come
not
on.
considering my dynasty shares, Shaun. You're not. Highly inconsiderate.
It is kind of rude,
Highly
actually. Yeah.
inconsiderate how you would just forget about my prince that was promised, Tyler Algier.
You got 1 year at Algier. Go flip him. Like, dude's a backup running back. Come on. He's a dime a dozen. Can replace any day of the week. This is Bijan Robinson. Is this the responsible thing to do? Absolutely not. If they have an edge rusher, lineman,
They should go defensive line, probably.
The Falcons have had 40 combined. The Falcons have had 40 combined sacks in back-to-back seasons. They should probably take somebody who get after the quarterback. But Bijan Robinson's on the board.
This feels like a Tyree Wilson or like
I put my foot down. You guys got to take CJ1. This is my pick.
That's fair.
Bijan goes 8. Okay, Aidan, who are the Bears taking at 9?
We said no trades, so I'm gonna just say I don't think they're picking there. They're moving. Everything I've read. They don't plan on picking there. If the Bears stay at 9, the most logical pick, in my opinion, is Paris Johnson Jr. Right tackle is a glaring hole on the roster right now. You've kind of got both guards. Center, I guess, if you think Cody Whitehair can still play football, and then Braxton Jones will play left tackle. I think Paris Johnson, makes the most sense at right tackle, but we'll see. Defensive line wouldn't surprise me as well, or even Skronsky. Kind of ripped on him, but
baby arms,
baby arms, trenches. Like just book the trenches. Like, I don't know. I keep seeing like JSM, but like they're not doing that. Like there's so many other bigger holes. This is going to be in the trenches.
So
there.
10 overall is the Eagles. This feels like cornerback, right?
No, this has got to be. I think if you're looking at this board right now, and Miles Murphy's still there, hasn't been drafted, like they could easily go edge
over Witherspoon. They just lost a bunch of corners.
I mean, Miles Murphy, Nolan Smith.
Nolan Smith is
either
the
of
kind
those
of type of pick, right? You know, he's kind of that mold.
Yeah. I'd also like to say, so I'm gonna pretend that the Falcons did not draft Bijan at
There's
8.
no way.
I don't think Bijan at 10 would be insane. The Eagles have a luxury where like there's not too many holes in this roster, and you add Bijan to that offense, and this is works every Sunday, occasionally
Tell
on
me
Monday.
why
Thursday.
it's not that good of a fantasy spot for Bijan. Jalen Hurts isn't going to check down to a running back, man. Jalen Hurts is going to go get those 10 yards with his feet.
Yeah.
He's not checking it down to a running back.
But I think in terms of winning NFL games, putting Bijan in that offense is
if you put
fucking
Bijan
awesome.
in Philadelphia, they would have the greatest run game of all time, ever.
It would
be ridiculously nasty.
No, it'd be fucked up.
It would be fucked up. That's a great way.
It's fucked up.
Okay, do we think the Titans take a receiver or no? This is JSN territory.
So
JSN territory at 11.
Are all 4 quarterbacks gone?
All 4 quarterbacks are gone. We still have some edge rushers. Bijan is gone. Both corners are gone. Got to pick. Are the Eagles taking a corner or an edge?
Corner is fine. I think a corner is an actual need for them.
Yeah.
You know, edge rusher would be something that I think they would go, but like I think it's going to be a defensive position. So I think
Yes.
corner with Witherspoon is fine.
Edge or corner seems like a total pick that Howie Roseman and the Eagles would take. Okay, so I'm here for that.
Yep.
11
Yep.
Titans, complete unknown. They could be a team that trades up and drafts a quarterback.
Yeah, so they're one that I see moving to the Bears at 9. If a quarterback
Lineman.
slides, if they don't, I think I'm looking at tackle or potentially wide receiver. But like drafting wide receiver here when you don't have your quarterback of the future yet, like it's kind of putting things together in the wrong order. But if you see, JSN or Quentin Johnston as like complement or even wide receiver 1 to Treylon Burks, and maybe you get your quarterback next year's draft or another way, maybe do that. I would bet on offensive line.
I think offensive line. They just cut Lawan. I think line's a good one. I think receiver.
Yeah, I think tackle makes way more sense.
JSN
here.
makes sense here. He also makes sense for the Texans, but I don't think the Texans are going to take a wideout. I mean, it's a position of need, but D'Amico Ryan's first-year head coach. It kind of feels like they're going to
absolutely take JSN. They should take Bryce Young at 2. They should take JSN at 12, and they should take Jahmyr Gibbs with their second-round pick and just go fucking balls to the wall.
That's what happens when you hire a defensive coach. When you hire a defensive head coach, you can use your first 3 picks.
I'm just saying, defense was not great, but it's not that bad. It was not that bad last year, all things considered. What their problem is they can't score points. They're not a consistent and good offense. Let's give them Bryce Young. Let's give them JSN. And in the second round, I know we're not doing the second round, but let's give them Gibbs and have some fun with it.
Okay.
I'm going edge here. They just brought in the defensive-minded coach, and that unit fucking sucked. That unit sucked.
Your opinion. He said, I'm going edge, bro.
For fantasy purposes, give me the wide receiver QB 212. But you have their defense was so fucking bad.
They're taking an edge. Lucas Van Ness.
Can you guys name a person on the Houston on their defensive line? Yeah, I think edge is the safer pick. Home run pick would be wide receiver. We would all fucking love it. If they went QB and wide receiver 212, we would be dancing.
So the Jets should totally take an offensive lineman, but this feels like kind of a greedy JSN spot, right? At 13.
Okay, so if I'm the problem is Aidan, we're saying Paris Johnson's off the board. That's kind of who he likes at tackle. That's actually who I like the most for the Jets fit. Depending on Mekhi Becton's health. And he's looking good. I don't know if you guys have seen all the photos he's posting. He's looking trim. Maybe we have some belief that he comes back, and that's not a bad offensive line if he's healthy and back to his rookie year form.
It's a gamble.
Look, if JSN's on the board and I'm Joe Douglas, I'm taking JSN. Are you kidding me? A wide receiver with JSN, Garrett Wilson, Lazard, Corey Davis, and Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball is... Oh my God.
It feels great.
Why is that greedy? Look, if Mekhi Becton's healthy and we like where he's at, who cares? Go get JSN.
I'm guessing tackle. I think even if Paris Johnson's off the board, you go like Darnell Wright or Broderick Jones.
Broderick Jones. I still like Peter Skoronski because of his versatility. He can go inside. He could go out. And
he can play all 5 positions, they say.
Which is pretty cool. I think
it's more like 3. I think it's more like 3 with his arms. I think he's an interior.
The thing is,
lineman.
We're going to build out the line with 2 picks in this draft. Probably with this first one we have at pick 13, we'll go tackle. And then somewhere in that second round, whatever pick we don't give to the Packers will probably be used to take a center. The Jets are going to have a kind of boring draft, but I would love them to get crazy and take JSN here. But let's go ahead and put Peter Skoronski on the Jets with this pick.
Okay. Great pick.
Okay.
14. No way JSN falls out of the top 14, right? The Patriots are just destitute of wide receiver. This has to be JSN.
They have no one there. I think even if JSN's gone, this is like a Quentin Johnston or Jordan Addison.
Addison.
This feels like
is this
wide receiver?
Boston College? Is
this our darling?
Well, for purposes of our exercise, JSN is on the board officially, so he's got to go here.
You could also make the argument here for corner. That secondary is not great.
I think we've already in this draft taken Gonzalez and Witherspoon off the board, though. So
Banks, Porter Jr. But remember, the Patriots always trade back, so this could be a trade back.
Yeah, Belichick he's such a wild. You just have no idea what he's going to do on draft night. Wide receiver or corner, make a ton of sense here, but they probably won't do either.
And then at 16 Packers, 15 Packers, this tight end, right? Is this where we get our first tight end off the board? They need a receiver
What
too.
would be
right?
awesome
Like,
is if they finally took a first-round wide receiver the year that they get rid of Aaron Rodgers. It would most ironic shit of all time. Just absolute fuck you to Aaron on his way out and take the first or second wide receiver on the board. I
think that would be hilarious.
JSN on the if JSN falls to 50.
They've also got
light.
Their line is aging too. Like given how close I am to the Packers and how much they torture me, like it's a pretty old line these days. A lot of injuries to those guys over the years. So like line's probably a safe pick there. Offensive weapon would be fun for us in fantasy.
And then you have the Commanders. You have no idea what they're doing. Like that could be a tight end.
I don't know what they're doing.
I don't know. They just draft really good position players. Like they've low-key just been really good at drafting. They just don't have a quarterback. Yeah, they just have really good.
And they're not getting a quarterback there. So I think but at that point, you maybe just take defensive players. Once you get into the middle of the first round, a lot of big boards are kind of just, best player available. So it's it's so many things could change before we get to 14, 15, 16 to where it's holy shit, I had there was no way this guy was supposed to make it on. Yeah, so Manders, I don't know. Just put a question. I have no idea what they're doing.
That's 16 picks. We have no fucking clue what's going on. That is this draft in a nutshell.
Basically, this exercise showed us that there is so much we don't know.
And that is why we presented the 2023 draft guide for dummies, because we got 3 of the biggest ones right here. Walking you through.
Boom.
All right, Keegan, thanks for joining as always. This is a great time. The NFL draft is always the best because it's just pure speculation. You have no idea if these guys are going to be good. You have no idea what these teams are going to do. NFL teams evaluate these guys much differently than us who are watching a lot of this on YouTube and Vimeo. So this is what we're doing. We're streaming film. That's what we're doing. Keegan, Aidan, do you have anything to say for the people before we get out of here?
Buckle in, fucking ride.
Pluto is a planet. Pluto is 100%.
Buckle in because this draft is going to be bonkers, and not even the analysts that get paid to talk about this have these slightest clue of stuff. In just a little over 2 weeks,
it's gonna be awesome.
We're going to find out, and everything we've talked about, you guys are all going to laugh at. Cause
I can't wait to be all correct.
Just completely nailed it 1 through 16.
I've never been wrong.
Ever.
I've never been wrong.
Never been wrong because technically it's the first time I've ever done this.
Okay. All right, fellas. It was a pleasure. If you are still listening, go touch some grass. Come on. Go tell a loved one you love them. We'll be here. Pause it. Come back for the next episode. Whatever you want to do. Thank you for joining as always. And until next time.